Anita, for more on this, we have Republican Senator from Tennessee, Marsha Blackburn, joining us now from Normandy, France. Senator, I really want to go into sort of your thoughts and reflections of the past few days in the anniversary of D-Day, but I want to take our viewers back to that live shot from Mike Emanuel, and you can see the thousands of anti-Israel protesters that are gathering now, intending to form a line around the White House. In an irony, perhaps here, Senator, that the very freedoms that they are exercising right now to protest against Israel were freedoms secured 80 years ago by the heroes of Normandy. But as we look now at these protesters, another anti-Israel protest. Senator, your thoughts on what we're seeing here?
One of the things that we need to all do today is be grateful that 4 hostages have been rescued and that the IDF pulled off a successful rescue. And Griff, we ought not to lose sight of that. And we should be supporting Israel. We should stand with Israel. We should make certain that Israel has what they need to defend themselves and to rid the face of the earth of Hamas. Hamas is a terrorist organization, and they carried out this attack on October 7th. So I'm grateful that we have Israel with the ability to defend themselves and to do what they need to do to protect their people and to make certain that those hostages are rescued.
Senator, do you believe that these 4 hostages would have been rescued had Israel heeded the Biden administration's call for a ceasefire, or these protesters' call for a ceasefire?
Griff, what we know is that Israel knows best what they're going to need to do to defend themselves. That is their right to defend their country. And while they do need aid from the United States, they need to buy equipment from us. And we have partnered and have supported them with the Iron Dome, with David Sling, and with other components that are necessary for that defensive battle posture. I think that we need to support that effort. And no, I don't think a ceasefire is what is needed. Obviously, the IDF and the leadership in Israel does not think the ceasefire is needed. They think what is needed is a plan that will rescue these hostages and will rid Gaza of Hamas. If you want to help the people that are in Gaza, the Palestinians, the Gazans, what you need to do is to get rid of Hamas and get rid of that activity that has kept the Palestinians oppressed.
You're looking at some of the 4 hostages that were rescued here in the last 24 hours. And Senator, the organizer of this massive protest, an Answer Coalition, is the group. It's led by a guy named Brian Becker. And he says to me this morning, Biden could end this war tomorrow by telling Netanyahu that U.S. aid to Israel will end if they don't stop the invasion. Your response?
I would remind many people that Hamas is the one that carried out an attack on October 7th. Before that, basically, you had a ceasefire, and you had the Palestinians in Gaza. And Griff, they need to remember that all changed when Hamas attacked Israel. They were not at war. They were not fighting. It was an unprovoked attack, and citizens and some U.S. citizens lost their lives, were captured. We need to remember this.
And Senator, I want to pivot just a little bit because you are in Normandy, such a historic occasion this week. And many are now comparing President Biden's speech to the famous 1984 Reagan speech, the boys a point to hawk speech. Here's just a clip of some of that. Play that and get your reaction.
We've learned that isolationism never was and never will be an acceptable response to tyrannical governments with an expansionist intent. But we try always to be prepared for peace, prepared to deter aggression, prepared to negotiate the reduction of arms.
Did you see a parallel between President Biden's remarks and Reagan's famous speech?
As I sat there listening to President Biden's speech, I did not think that in comparison to Reagan's speech in 1984. And Griff, I think one of the things to me that was so meaningful was visiting with Tennesseans, with World War II veterans, hearing their stories, listening to their recounts of that day, and listening to their words about how important it is to realize that we, the United States of America, we are the leader of the free world. And that is something we ought not to forget.
Our viewers seeing pictures of you with many of those heroes, some of them the brave teenagers that stormed Utah Beach in Normandy. Just lastly, what was it like for you personally? Try and describe what it was like to be among them and to see them and the emotions you felt.
Oh, Griff, when you see them welcomed as heroes, they loved it. They were so excited that they were being well remembered and that they were being thanked. And it was wonderful to watch them. That was such a special day for them. Some of them have not been back at all. Their families were with them. They were able to actually be there on Omaha Beach. They were actually able to talk with the other veterans who, whether it was there at Omaha Beach or whether it was Battle of the Bulge, they told those stories, and it would help them recall some of those memories that they had and what they had lived through during that time. And it also, I think, was really thrilling for them to come back and drive into Normandy and drive through all of these villages, and they're seeing the French flag and the U.S. flag flying together.
And we are forever grateful for their brave actions and heroism. Senator Marsha Blackburn, thank you for taking time to join us from Normandy today.
Good to be with you.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.